Right guys, I have literally experienced both amazing groomsmen and absolutely, totally useless. Like, I'm not even joking. Hello lovely couples and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lauren, wedding planner and owner of Bluebird Creative. I provide a weekly dose of wedding planning goodness for the modern couple. So if you haven't already guys, subscribe to my channel and don't forget to check out my Instagram where we are very much more of real, raw, honest, and it's just a bit of fun over there. You can also check out some of our real weddings too. So guys, let's jump into this week's video. We're going to be breaking down groomsmen duties because I just think this is really important. It's really important to understand as a couple so that you can get them to help with your wedding day, and also actually as a groomsman, maybe you should point them in the direction of this video so they can see how they can really help you on your wedding day. Let's go. Okay, so groomsmen can make such a difference to the flow of your wedding day. Bridesmaids can also help with this as well, but I'm just particularly picking on the groomsmen today. They can also, if you've got a wedding planner, when I'm on site, they can really make my job so much easier or harder, basically. But if you haven't got a wedding planner, then you're really going to want to utilise your groomsmen in just a couple of places throughout the day to just try and make it flow better and just to give a better experience to your guests as well. So let's really dive into those different areas. So first of all, just sort of basically we're going to run through the day from start to finish as such. So the first thing that the groomsmen need to do is just to make sure that the groom's there on time. Now that's not to patronise the groom, he might just be totally there on time, like totally in control of his own timings and everything. But a lot of the time the groom can just feel quite overwhelmed on their own wedding day. They might just sort of be taking it all in, feeling a bit of overwhelm, feeling a bit of anxiety, all the adrenaline's pumping, and actually just having your close team around you to support you with those feelings and just to help make sure that everything in the morning happens when it needs to happen and that you get to the wedding location when you need to get there, because time can literally fly and you might not realise because you're just feeling all the feels. So groomsmen are really good for that. The groomsmen are particularly important for the ceremony part of your wedding day. After that, they don't really serve a massive role throughout the day. A couple of points which we'll go into, but mainly it's the wedding ceremony. Now this is the first point that your guests are actually arriving on site. It's the first part of the wedding. So nobody really knows what they're doing, where they're going. And this is where you really want your groomsmen to kind of know the deal, know the plan, so that they can greet guests as they arrive and they can welcome them through to the location where they need to take their seats, let guests know that they can go through and so on, point them in the direction of card box or a gift box if there is one at the ceremony location. If not, they'll do that later. And just get guests seated, maybe make them aware of any toilets and so on. Next point is really important, and this is where I lean on the groomsmen in a ceremony when I'm working on a wedding. Now, typically a couple will reserve at least the front 2 rows of seating during the ceremony. I always advise my couples to do that, particularly because you're going to want the groomsmen, the best man, etc. with seating right up the front. You're going to want the bridesmaids to have seating. They're going to walk down the aisle and then they're going to need to sit down. So we need that space reserved. You'd also want your immediate family, or you'll likely want your immediate family in that front row or front 2 rows. So we always recommend to reserve that. But as a wedding planner, I am not there seating guests. I am making sure that everything else is ready, that all the things are happening, and then meeting the bride when she arrives on site. I also, at this point, don't know who the mother of the bride is, who the mother of the groom is, and so on. Nan, you know, all these people, whereas the groomsmen likely do. So that's where I always have a conversation with the groomsmen as a team, and I say, these are the people that need to be sat in the front 2 rows. Do you guys, between you, know who they are? Typically they tend to, because they're the couple's closest friends. And they then take that responsibility to make sure that those people are seated in the front 2 rows, or at least to ask people when they arrive, are you close-knit family? Are you one of these people? And so on. So even when I'm working a wedding, I lean on the groomsmen to do that because I don't know who those people are. And it's a really easy job for them to help out with. If you don't have a wedding coordinator there, obviously same again, you're still going to want them helping with that, but you'll have them greeting guests and so on. Once the ceremony's finished, the guests are going to come out and there might be a confetti shot, which is another opportunity for the groomsmen to really step up. So perhaps there was confetti on the chairs and people are going to throw confetti walking back down the aisle. That will be announced by the person leading the ceremony, so they'll be told that throughout the ceremony and that will happen. If it's a case of the confetti needs to be thrown outside, the likelihood is again that whoever's leading the ceremony will announce that. Hopefully, if you don't have a wedding coordinator on site, I highly recommend that a groomsman perhaps checks that, or the venue, or you check it with the venue so that we know that that's being announced. Anyway, as guests exit and leave, you'll need the groomsmen to be handing out the confetti and asking guests to get in a particular position. The photographer again will probably step in here to help coordinate that, because obviously they're the ones that are actually getting the shot of it, so they'll kind of guide that situation. But the groomsmen, it's really helpful, and bridesmaids too, to really help just sort of orchestrate that, get confetti in people's hands and get them lined up in the right location. If there's no confetti shot, you don't need to do anything except for ask the guests to make their way through to the drinks reception. And again, it's really helpful if you can actually sort of help guide them in the right direction, because it is literally like herding cats. No joke, it's like herding cats. If you've had a ceremony that is in a different location to the wedding reception, then you're going to need to assist with people getting on transport. So for example, we have a lot of London weddings and they'll have their ceremony at a town hall, and then the couple will have organised a big red bus. We love a big red bus. So we then need to make sure that the buses have arrived, that everybody's on the buses. Typically there's 2 buses and so on. So when we're doing that, it's fine. But if we're not there, the groomsmen, it's really helpful if they can step up and just make sure that everybody gets on the buses. If the couple have decided that they're providing drinks on the buses, then typically the groomsmen will help assist with handing this out on the buses and so on. I recently did a wedding and the groomsmen were absolutely brilliant at this. They totally stepped up, they were on it, and we just worked as a team, and that was amazing, because obviously there is only one of me. So it's amazing when they really do step up. When they don't, I'm literally running around doing all the things, which is fine, but it's really lovely when they do step up, especially if the couple have asked them to do a few duties. So it is great when they do follow through with that. The next point would be the group photo. So this is kind of similar to the reserve seating as such, in that when the group photos are happening, we made a conscious decision to not get involved with the group photos. It's almost like, again, we don't know the guests, we don't know who they are, so we'd just be calling out names from a sheet, which kind of doesn't really make sense in my opinion. And actually the photographer's calling out the names of who they need to get already. So there's not really any point in us getting involved. It's almost a case of too many cooks. But the groomsmen will likely know who the people are. So if the photographer is asking for certain guests to come and make their way over for group photos, the groomsmen and the bridesmaids can help assist with that, because they know who to get, which leaves us to get on with our jobs and make sure that the running of the day is happening, that everything's ready for the wedding breakfast, if any turnarounds from the ceremony can happen, and so on. And final 2 points here really are making guests aware of where the card box is or where they can leave presents, and finally potentially moving of chairs. If you've got a wedding day where everything is in one location, you might find that you've got chairs over at the ceremony location and then they need to be moved over to the wedding breakfast. So at which point, if you haven't got maybe a large venue team, and typically they don't always do that, some venues do, or if you haven't got a wedding planning team, then the groomsmen, it'd be very handy if they stepped in and moved the chairs for you. Again, we have leaned on groomsmen to do this with us. We've obviously done it, but it takes a really long time, especially if you've got about 100 guests and only 2 of us. So it's lovely when the groomsmen actually come over and go, can we help? At which point I typically say yes, because I know that it's quite a laborious job, but they don't always, and that's fine, because it's something that we sign up and we're very happy to do, but always very grateful for the help. If you don't have an us, you need to consider who's going to do it, and the groomsmen are typically the ones that you might lean on. So anyway, guys, there you go. Some useful groomsmen duties. If you have got groomsmen and you're trying to work out what to give them, then those are very good things to give them. Or if you're actually just wondering who's going to do those things, then I recommend the groomsmen. Anyway guys, I hope you found this video helpful. I will be back next week with some more wedding planning goodness. Until then, have a great week.